Let's get this merch. Subscribe to the PDH Network. Alright, man, let me get straight to it with no chaser. See, the feds, they on to YoGotti and his brother Big Juke through Gotti and the Scorpion unit. So the Alphabet Boys investigated everybody affiliated with CMG and BlacYoungsta's heavy camp because they needed concrete confession based on the ones who had the motive and the money to take out YoungDolph. Because this person or that person said someone did something based on their status, you need stone cold evidence, especially dealing with somebody like YoGotti. If not, their attorney gonna make sure it get thrown out and they walk. Similar to when BlacYoungsta and a couple CMG affiliates got arrested for that whole YoungDolph 100 shell situation in South Carolina. Even though folks know CMG and Heavy Camp was in South Carolina the same time YoungDolph was, the courts threw it out because one would need proof, basically a statement from multiple people affiliated with that camp all admitted to the same storyline about the whole setup and who paid, or proof that a person would have the motive to send 100 shells at you, where one could be possibly charged with conspiracy to commit it in one. So yeah, YoungDolph made a song and video about knowing who sent 100 shells at him. BlacYoungsta turned around, did the same thing when he got released, basically saying he did it, but Dolph didn't have the proof. Even though we all know it's footage out there of BlacYoungsta and a few other Heavy Camp affiliates pulling up to Cat State in broad daylight looking for YoungDolph, and everybody with BlacYoungsta had a burner. And the folks from Memphis, they know that BlacYoungsta, he placed himself in the middle of YoGotti and YoungDolph beef, really just for attention, and also to protect his master, YoGotti. Not to mention all the times YoGotti relatives, who were once a part of the Scorpion unit, would antagonize YoungDolph every chance that they got. I'm talking about every time they seen those camel cars out, they would pull up on YoungDolph, to the point where Dolph family told him to stop coming back to Memphis. But we all know Dolph, he loved his family and his community too much in order to just let that happen. Dolph even stated himself, one time the Scorpion unit pulled him over and took $2 million in jewelry, plus over 60 G's in cash. Then on the other side, you got Big Juke and BlacYoungsta. They will pay different Trula affiliates to snatch the PaperRoute artist chains. I'm talking about just doing all type of bogus activity towards PaperRoute because Big Juke and BlacYoungsta knew they had people on the department who was also in on antagonizing YoungDolph, which was the Scorpion unit. I mean, don't get me wrong, YoungDolph, he wasn't an angel, but he also didn't deserve to get sent up. But one of my guys reminded me earlier, you rap about smashing another man BM and roasting his big brother at the same time, you gotta be ready and prepared for whatever comes after that. Meaning, if you know they tried to take you out multiple times before, then you need guys around you at all times to protect you from your ops. I know your brother Marcus was there, but that shows he wasn't enough. You needed more guys around you, especially if you're the one putting guys in position to take care of themselves and their families. So you being that person, you gotta be protected at all costs. I told y'all, especially when you have YoGotti people that know him informing him the things YoungDolph said about him. Yeah, YoGotti, he checked his BM for letting YoungDolph pipe her down. But Gotti knew he wasn't gonna let YoungDolph get away with that. We all know YoungDolph, he had a feeling his ops wasn't gonna stop until they took him out. He even rapped about it, basically informing folks somebody didn't like the moves he was making and planning to set him up. Dolph just didn't know YoGotti had the proper people paid in position, from the low-level street cats, the Scorpion unit, and those at Makita's, Pam, Maurice, and Raven, because for some reason, they wasn't nowhere around that building when YoungDolph pulled up to the cookie shop. Some suspicious activity to me. What y'all think? But before we continue, let's pay our respects to the king of Memphis and say rest in peace to YoungDolph. Condolences to his family and much love to all my folks in Dolph land. To all my folks in Dolph land, y'all just have patience because you will soon get justice for YoungDolph's untimely demise. We know YoungDolph was proof that you could make it out the mud and still come back to take care of your loved ones. He will always be missed because he was a real cat that took care of his family and his community. Because we knew that YoungDolph, he always looked out for the families in Cat State in every way that he could. And I'm talking about from putting food in folks' fridges to paying their rent, buying their little ones clothes for school. Then if we add in fundraisers, giveaways, turkey drives, and even signing youngsters to his PaperRoute label to put them on so they could be in a position to take care of themselves and their families and stay out the streets and actually become a productive citizen. He will also invest in small businesses in Memphis. And the folks in Memphis know that Makita's was one of those small businesses that YoungDolph invested in. So that's why I was messed up knowing what YoungDolph did for them, and they still assisted in his untimely demise. That just shows y'all the type of person that YoungDolph was. And he was also willing to aid and assist those that was in need. And that's the reason why YoungDolph taught all the PaperRoute affiliates the game, so they won't be in need for anything. So taking out YoungDolph, it really hurt a lot of people that's from South Memphis, because he motivated the youth with logic and truth. So they want the feds to bring down whoever took out PaperRouteFrank. See, the feds know someone on the department, aka the Scorpion unit, hid the camera footage from the MPD Skycam, plus other evidence they got rid of behind taking out YoungDolph. That's why the Alphabet Boys want to know who they were doing it for and why, because that would definitely help them understand who had the motive to send up YoungDolph. Even though the Scorpion unit tried to report the whole YoungDolph setup as a random act of violence, and we all knew that wasn't the truth. So the feds gonna question everybody affiliated with Heavy Camp and CMG, from the low-level street cats on up to the HNIC. And that could be YoGotti or that OG out there in Memphis who Finesse 2 Times was talking about. I'm trying to inform y'all, Finesse 2 Times, he stated himself the reason why he didn't go back to Memphis. He didn't want that Memphis OG to do him like they did YoungDolph. Even Finesse 2 Times is familiar that somebody out there in Memphis had it out for YoungDolph, and it wasn't only YoGotti. I told y'all, man, you had some guys in the streets and some people up that political ladder who wanted YoungDolph removed. Because again, they was jealous of the moves that YoungDolph was making, not only to better himself, but those that come from the same environment as him. But for the most part, YoungDolph was removed because he was too much competition for YoGotti. And since YoGotti couldn't deal with it, he had to find a way to take him out. And again, going back, that's the reason why the feds, they questioning everybody that's affiliated with Heavy Camp and CMG, because they can see all the suspects locked up and the people of interest are some way connected to YoGotti, his brother Big Juke, and their guard dog BlacYoungsta. It's just a shame that all these people involved in removing YoungDolph, they could have spent their time doing something more beneficial for the city of Memphis instead of going at somebody like YoungDolph, someone who positively motivated the youth in their community. It just shows how we limit our own growth as a people and really need to do better, especially if we want to properly lead the next generation. Because the issues between CMG and PRE, it could affect the youth. It made a lot of young cats out of Memphis sign with Quality Control Music or GucciMane's 1017, so they won't seem like they choosing sides between PRE and CMG. So what I'm saying is, we don't want this back and forth between PRE and CMG to overshadow all the undiscovered talent that's coming out of Memphis at this time. But trust me, everybody who had their hands in the cookie jar pertaining to taking out PaperRouteFrank at the cookie shop, their day is coming. I told y'all before, they can run, but they can't hide. So with that, always be aware and always stay prepared. But hey, we got more in store. As always, y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it's worth. Let's get this merch. Subscribe to the PDH Network.